Guys, it is almost time for UFC 321. Tom Aspinall, now the UFC Undisputed King, puts the title on the line against elusive striker Ciryl Gane in the main event. It's raw strength versus refined technique, and my friends at DraftKings are going to get you in on all the action. New customers turn $5 into $300 if your bet wins, paid instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code SONNEN, stay in on the action. Use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Love the thrill of live betting? Bet live on star player props and in-progress games right as they happen. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers, use my promo code SONNEN. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly if your bet wins. That's promo code SONNEN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Tom Aspinall paid a huge compliment to Daniel Cormier, and I don't think that he meant to. He answered a question. Somebody asked him a question, and this person has balls, by the way. You don't ask this kind of question to the heavyweight champion of the world. They did, and it was very playful, and I liked it. And here's what they said. Tell me somebody from the past who you would not want to fight, but the reason you wouldn't want to fight them is you know they could beat you. I would love for everybody to be asked that question. I would love for Khabib to have to tell us who his boogeyman is. I would love for St. Pierre to have to tell us who his boogeyman is. That is an interesting question. And Tom did not hesitate. And he said Daniel Cormier. And then he said why. He said he would take me down. He would flip me all through the air, dump me on my head, and I would be stuck down there. That would be a nightmare. And by the way, today's heavyweights don't have to worry about that. We have never had a heavyweight class. Now, this has been going on for about 5 years, but we've never had an era of heavyweights that have had to worry about a wrestler less. Daniel Cormier was the most accomplished wrestler, and we understand it. When you remove Daniel Cormier, the most accomplished wrestler fell to Stipe Miocic, who qualified for the NCAA tournament at 197 pounds. When Stipe retired, the most decorated wrestler falls to Jon Jones and Curtis Blades. They hold the same junior college national championship. There's never been a time there wasn't an Olympian or a world team member or medalist. There's never been a time when there wasn't an NCAA champion or All-American. I'm not talking about in the top 10. I'm not talking about in title contention. There's not one under contract. There is not an NCAA All-American, which would be the bottom of what I'm talking about. You know, then you'd work up to champion. Then you'd work up to world and Olympic team member. Then you work up to medalist. I'm going to there's never been a time in history where they don't have a single one even under contract. So your idea of that old school ground and pound, get taken down, get pinned, right? Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture, Hoist Gracie, even though Hoist was looking for submissions, it was still about getting on top. Mark Coleman, Dan Severn, Mark Kerr. There's always been this ground and pound threat. But not only is there not a threat, it's not coming down the pike. It's not 4 or 5 fights from now. There's nobody under contract. So to Tom's point, of all the things that he has to prepare for and or worry about in his career, not just this fight, like in his career, who's next and who's after that? Yeah, there's nobody like Daniel. There's nobody that's going to grab you and lift you off the ground, right? I mean, Daniel's finishes were not rocket science. Daniel used gravity. He would get in there, and then he would get you in the air, and gravity is what would take you down. And I love that Tom said that he found that intimidating. I think that was fair. And I love that he said, I'm not prepared for that. That skill isn't something that's here. That's not a skill I need to be prepared for. I just thought it was a very nice thing. It's a very nice thing. And I do wonder for other guys, who would that be? I don't know that there's an answer to Khabib, by the way. I'm not sure there was anyone over time that we should reasonably believe would have been the guy, if they were at the same time, that could stop Khabib. But that doesn't mean Khabib doesn't think that. He was a little boy at one point. Who did he look up to? We've never been told. Was it BJ Penn? BJ would have been the weight class and would have been dominating, not to mention had a skill set that would have been very interesting. Not to mention BJ held that same number one, pound for pound, number one divisionally that Khabib went on to hold. He held that same 12-pound gold belt, for that matter. Who would it be for Khabib? Who would it be for St. Pierre? How would a Daniel answer that question? When the baddest dude you know has a baddest dude he knows, it's a very interesting thing, right? It's just one of those things in life. Your big brother who you're scared of, but then you find out that he's scared of somebody at school. Like, it's one of these things. And it never seems to end. And I would be curious, who would a Randy Couture's been? Because Randy was at the right time and he fought for so long. I don't know that there was really anybody before him. I don't know about that. But there was guys that Randy struggled with in wrestling. Let me give you an example on Randy. Randy lost in the NCAA finals to Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine. Now, when Randy got into fighting, it would seem as though Randy was the more decorated of the two. He was the UFC champion. He was their main event. But Mark Kerr was the main event, and the big draw, and the big star in a rival promotion known as Pride. Like, it's one of those things where I've never heard Randy even privately say, I want to get matched up with that guy. He beat me in college, and I want to get it back. I've never heard him say that, but I've always wondered if it was true. I've always wondered from Mark Kerr's standpoint. Like, I'm making plenty of money and I'm plenty big enough, but it's in Japan. Meanwhile, this guy that I beat in Randy Couture is the biggest star in America where we both live. Like, was there a jealousy or an envy there on Kerr's side? I've never heard him say it. I'm just saying that's an interesting thing. And the baddest dude that I know, and I feel like I've been in there with them all. If it wasn't in competition in front of you guys, it was in the practice room. Our community's not that big. You do it enough times and you travel and enough gyms and you end up feeling about everybody. And the toughest guy I know, though, you wouldn't know from MMA. His name is Les Gutchess. I knew him from amateur wrestling. And I mean, he was a level of tough that I didn't know was a thing. If he would have done to me what he did to me, and I was not a consenting adult in a practice room, he would have been arrested. That is not meant to prove a point. That is literal. They would have come up, seen this, they would have drawn their weapons, and they would have put him in handcuffs. But he tells these same horror stories about Mark Schultz. He tells them to me. So when the toughest guy I know is telling me stories about a dude that whipped his ass, it's a very strange thing. All right, then I guess Mark Schultz is the toughest guy. Let's go ask Mark Schultz. Well, no, Mark tells these same horror stories about his brother, Dave. These same stories. So when the toughest guy you know has the toughest guy he knows, who has the toughest guy he knows. Like, that game never ends. Dave Schultz, rest his soul. But if he wasn't, I would love to get him on the phone and find who's the toughest guy he knows. Like, at some point it must end. There must be an answer. Or maybe not. Tom Aspinall is the undisputed reigning heavyweight champion of the world. Daniel Cormier is just an announcer. He's an announcer on the outside. But the heavyweight champion is glad that the announcer is on the outside. It's one of these things